Joining me now is Dr. Colleen McNicholas, the Chief Medical Officer of Reproductive Health Services at Planned Parenthood St. Louis and Southwest Missouri region. She was also at that virtual meeting with Vice President Harris on Thursday. Doctor, this new bill in Oklahoma defines an unborn child as a human fetus or embryo in any stage of gestation from fertilization until birth. Doctor, could this ban also affect people who are choosing to use in vitro fertilization, also known as IVF?
Well, the truth is that this is one of the most extreme bans that we've had, that we've seen so far. And the full repercussions of this particular piece of legislation are yet to be seen. It's really sort of important to think about the nuance of each state, and each of these bans will have different impacts at each level. But the truth is, what we know is that it's essentially a race to the bottom, right? Who can be the most extreme? And, practicing in Missouri, we've held that title for a long time, and now we certainly have some competition. But one of the things I'll say specifically about Oklahoma is, fertilization happens before pregnancy. Mm-hmm. Pregnancy requires implantation. So now we've moved beyond just banning abortion for pregnancy. Now we're banning abortion before you're even pregnant.
Yeah, doctor, though, to your point, though, it creates the slippery slope that you're not going to be able to really determine unless it's done on a factual basis. And when that happens, it's usually supposed to be colorblind, race blind, etc. But we all know that that's not necessarily going to be the case. Do you have a concern as a medical provider that there's going to be exposure not only to the women that are undergoing these potentially, tragic health issues, but also the medical providers themselves that are going to have to sit there and ask themselves, do I do this because I run the risk of maybe getting prosecuted or sued for what I'm doing?
One of the most important and tragic sort of aspects of legislators influencing medicine in this way is that they use language and concepts that are totally irrelevant to us as providers of that care. And when you take that in context with the reality of a political landscape that is so egregious and so aggressive, we're talking about physicians having to face a real reality where they know what the right care is, they have the skill set to provide the care, but they are so afraid to do so because 10 years from now, 5 years from now, next month, somebody might look at that care and decide, oh, I didn't actually think that patient was sick enough to have an abortion. This is really an untenable situation for medicine.
I want us to listen to Congresswoman Cori Bush share with lawmakers her personal abortion story at a hearing on reproductive rights that happened this week. Take a listen.
When I was 17 years old, I was raped. Weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. Without the protections afforded to me by Roe v. Wade, I would have been forced to birth a human being that I could not take care of, and the father would have been my rapist. The emotional devastation of this encounter was traumatic. I didn't know if it was my fault. I didn't know what to do. Did I do something wrong? I hadn't consented, but I blamed myself. The stress of possibly having a child at 18 was more than I could bear.
These are powerful stories that we're hearing, Doctor. In this new bill, abortions for pregnancies from rape and incest will still be banned unless they have been reported to law enforcement. I mean, even after suffering such a traumatic event as rape or incest, now women would have to be forced to report it, even if they aren't interested in seeking criminal justice. How does any of that square with medical reasons in order to seek an abortion?
One of the most important things to lift is that we know that even when people do report their sexual assault and the violence that has been committed against them, that there is such a woefully inadequate response to that. And so there's so many reasons that folks don't report that rape or that violence, and because it just re-traumatizes them. And we as physicians, we as providers, clinicians, those who are providing abortion care, really just approach these people and our patients as individuals, right? These are real people with real struggles who need real and basic health care, and abortion is included in that. And the truth is, at this moment, we deserve real and bold leadership and allyship in this moment. And we can have this, we can make a difference, but we all have to get on board now.
Well, getting on board, Doctor, would require people having a basic understanding. Republicans are showing their lack of understanding of the reality of when abortions are performed during Wednesday's hearing. Let's take a quick listen to what GOP Representative Mike Johnson asked a doctor on the witness stand.
Do you support the right of a woman who is just seconds away from birthing a healthy child to have an abortion?
I think that the question that you're asking does not realistically reflect abortion care.
In that scenario, would you
you?
support her right to abort that child?
I won't entertain theoreticals.
It's not a theoretical, ma'am.
reality.
You're a medical doctor.
I am a medical doctor, and that has never happened.
Good for this doctor, right, doctor, for standing her ground and saying you're an idiot and you know what you're doing. She said it more politely than me. You know, GOP lawmakers are making the spread of disinformation and misinformation a congressional art form. But what can healthcare providers do to combat this disinformation?
You know, Dr. Robinson is one of our most prolific and articulate advocates for abortion rights. She is certainly a hero in the movement, and all of us watching her, we're cheering her on in that congressional hearing for sure. You're right. So for a long time, anti-abortion extremists have used the legislature to actually perfect their disinformation campaign, to prime the public for a scenario where they don't trust public health. And the truth is we're seeing the repercussions of that in other areas now, right? Responses to a pandemic, for example. I really think it is critical that we as healthcare professionals, our organizations, that we all stand up and we really make clear medicine is to be practiced in the room with a patient and a physician, and that there is no space in our exam room for legislators, especially those who know nothing about the care that we're providing.